Hello and welcome back. So let's continue with our backend series. And in this video, we are going to talk about TypeScript. So because it's not our focal point or a main focus for this particular series, I'm just going to give you an introduction and some benefits that comes with reusing TypeScript in our project. So for this and more, let's dive into it. Alright, so the obvious question that comes in mind is, what is TypeScript? Yeah, TypeScript is a build up on JavaScript that comes with some extra features, which includes static types. TypeScript was developed by Microsoft, okay, so it means it comes with some reliability. And TypeScript is being compiled into JavaScript, okay. So you write your TypeScript code, and then once you are done, you build it, and then it's being converted from TypeScript to JavaScript for you. TypeScript is used in wide range of application, okay. So what I'm going to do now is, let's go into my code base where I'm just going to show you some features or some stuff that we can do with TypeScript. All right, so this is a backend code, right, written in TypeScript. And the first thing you're going to look at is the static type I spoke about, right? Before that, let me just show you something here. So this is a JavaScript file, okay? Oops. And I want to show you something here. So as we know, with JavaScript, let's say we are doing some assignments, okay? What we normally do is we just say let age equals 1, okay? And this is what we do in normal JavaScript code, okay? But in TypeScript, this is what we do. Let's say let my name equals Christian. This is a normal plain JavaScript code, but with TypeScript, what we do is we add types to it, which is the key factor. So I'm just going to say string. So what I'm basically doing here is I'm assigning the type string to this particular variable. So now we know that my name, which is a variable, contains string. Do you get me? Now let's do some comparison here. Let me bring the JavaScript code. Yeah. So with JavaScript, I can just come down here and say age equals Christian, right? And nothing happens. I mean, it doesn't make sense. But then when we go to a TypeScript file and then we try to give my name 1, you see we have an error. And then when you hover over it, it says the type number is not assigned to the type string, which is awesome. So this, the extra feature that TypeScript comes along with, it kind of gives some restrictions to our code. Now, let me take you through one file here, okay? So this file is basically an email service, okay? Let's come here. This is a function, right? And it takes in some parameter. Now, we are specifying a type here, which says node mailer. So what we are basically doing here is we are specifying that this email data should have the fields of node mailer. I don't know if it's in a type service. So let's go and see what's in there. So it means the prop or the parameter that is coming should contain a subject, which is a string. It should contain a text, which is a string, an HTML, which is a string, but it's not required. It should also contain the email, okay, and it's a string. So this is kind of a restriction we are giving to our parameter for that particular function. And we could see that this, which is in the HTML field, is not required. The rest are required, okay? So in future, when we try to call this function without passing in all or the necessary parameters, we are going to get an error, which makes coding much easier for us. With normal JavaScript, we won't get an error, and it's going to create a bug for us. You know what I'm trying to say? So I mean, this is an awesome. And then, as you can see here, we're also specifying the return type. So when you hover over this, you could see the signature of it, which says it takes in a parameter email data, and it's supposed to be a node mailer, and it returns a promise of void. So I mean, we are trying to define the function by adding some types to it, okay? Yeah. So now let's move on to, I spoke about we converting our TypeScript codes to JavaScript, right? So let me close this once and then show you that. So this is the code base, okay? And then inside our source folder, we have all these folders inside, right? These are all written in TypeScript. Now, after we are done, we build this application or we run this application, and it's being converted into JavaScript for us. Okay. So okay, this is my index file, which is the entry point of the application. At the top here, you could see we are doing some imports here. We are initializing some services here, and then we are doing some middleware stuffs here. Okay, we have some endpoints here. We are doing some console log checking here to know our memory usage, and then down here we are doing some exporting, right, which is the application right here. And then here we are doing some rendering or checking here. Okay, now let's go to the lib folder, and inside the lib folder, if you could clearly see, the lib folder looks similar to whatever is inside the source folder, right? So in the lib folder we have text. Here we have text, we have configuration folder, controllers, middleware. When you come here, you could see the same thing here. And then even here, you could see our entry points. In our source folder is index.js, index.ts, right? But when you come here, you could see it's index.js. Now let's click on that. Great. Now when you come here, these first lines might not look familiar, but yeah, when you scroll down, you could see the imports that we did is basically happening here. So .env file route error handlers. When you go back to our code, and you could see .env files error handlers route here. Okay, admin functions. And then when you come back, we see admin and functions right here. Okay, so basically what we did here, right, has been converted to a JavaScript code for us. So you could see the routes here, and then even our memory log checking right here. Okay, so basically that is how it works. You write your codes in TypeScript, okay, and then at the end of the day, it's being converted into JavaScript for you. Now let's proceed. All right, so now that we have some fair idea and knowledge about how JavaScript code differ from TypeScript codes, we can now look into the key benefits of TypeScript. The first one obviously is the static typing, which I spoke to you about, right? So with TypeScript, it kind of gives some restrictions to whatever variable or whatever code you perform, right? So a clear example is the age initialization that we spoke about, okay? In JavaScript, it allowed us to kind of assign strings to the age variable, it doesn't make sense, right? But with TypeScript, it gives some restrictions to it. Once you specify that this variable or this function takes in this type, later on, if you are trying to use that same variable or function and you pass in a different variable type or value type, it throws an error, okay, unless probably you do type custom, which happens in some cases. So TypeScript comes with this extra benefit of static typing. The next one we are going to talk about is readability, okay? So using TypeScript, it actually improves readability in the sense that you get to know the contents of a variable, even if the variable name doesn't make sense, okay? Sometimes some developers kind of find it difficult to give reasonable variable names, okay? And if you are using this in actual JavaScript codes, you might find it difficult to understand, and eventually it's going to lead to error. But with TypeScript, it provides you or gives you the ability to add types to it, which kind of improves readability, because right from the onset you could clearly know what the function takes and what it expects from you. The next one is less error, and as you could see, when we try to initialize or we try to change the type of a variable in TypeScript, it threw an error that the type number is not assigned to string, right? So basically with TypeScript, there's less error in there. And also we have tooling support. Yeah, so IDEs like VS Code kind of provide tooling support when you're using TypeScript, and some of the tooling support includes error detection and also auto-completion. And we realized when we were typing TypeScript and we decided to change, we had an error. error message, right? Which is an awesome tool that we get from TypeScript. The last one I'm going to talk about is scalability. Okay, so when you are building large projects, trust me, TypeScript is the best way to go, because you are in a team with 2 or 3 or 4 developers, and each and every one might be doing something different. At a point in time, some of your code might cross, okay, and you need this static type to kind of restrict you guys to follow one particular trend or order, and this help us to manage large projects, okay, reduce less bugs, and with the tooling support, it makes it easier to build large applications. And I think these are the key benefits that TypeScript provides, or TypeScript has advantage as compared to JavaScript. Now let's look at some popular projects that uses TypeScript. The first one I'm going to talk about is React. Okay, so React uses TypeScript, and as I've stated there, TypeScript is widely used in React projects for better components and props types. Okay. The next one is Angular. Angular was built with TypeScript from ground up, so it supports TypeScript. Vue also supports TypeScript. I mean the Vue version 3. Okay. React Native also supports TypeScript. The last one is node.js, which the code base I showed you right now or some minutes ago is a node.js application. Okay, and it supports TypeScript, as you could see. Now let's just conclude. Okay, why should we use TypeScript? So TypeScript actually reduces our bugs and improve our code reliability. Obviously, we learned that from the example or the experiment we did. Okay, we could see we're able to detect errors, and then using the types or specifying the types for variables and function was easy for us to understand these errors. Okay, so with TypeScript, it basically reduces our bugs for us and also improves our code reliability. With TypeScript, it's easy to maintain large projects and scale them. Okay, so using TypeScript, you are able to kind of manage big projects, and it's easy for you to catch errors as well. So the next point is powerful IDE support for faster development. Okay, so when you're using TypeScript, and then as I mentioned with VS Code, for instance, you kind of get auto completion and also error detection, which is very, very important. Now to the last point, TypeScript is adaptable. Okay, so you have a JavaScript code, you can change it or convert it to TypeScript. Okay, which doesn't take much changes for that to happen. With less changes, you can actually convert or move your code base from the TypeScript or from JavaScript to TypeScript, which is, I think, is awesome, right? Now, one might ask, you didn't see any downside of TypeScript, right? Yeah, it has some downside, and some of the downside is plenty codes. Okay, you kind of add extra layer or extra features to normal JavaScript code that you are going to write. So back to the example that I gave earlier on, just initializing or assigning value to a variable, you have to add the type to that. Initializing a function, you have to add all the return types and all that. But in JavaScript, it's a straightforward. Okay, so I think that could be something. I mean, let me say downside or some advantage that JavaScript has over TypeScript. Okay, but I mean, anyway, it's cool, and based on this, you could actually decide the one you should use for your project. Okay, so let me share this personal experience before I close. So when you're about to start a project, you need to ask yourself a couple of questions, right? First is how big is the project gonna be? Okay, if it's just a small and simple project, trust me, then you just have to go with JavaScript, because that one you can easily manage your code base. Okay, but when you're building a big project and it requires 2 or 3 people to be on that particular project, then I think TypeScript is the best for you, and this is actually going to speed up the development process for you as well. Yeah, so I think from personal experience, this is what I can say about these two, and I think as to which one you should use, it depends on you. If you're able to answer the questions I just mentioned, then you could clearly see the one that you should use. You get me? Yeah. And I think I'm just going to end the video here. I hope you really enjoyed it. If you did, kindly click on the subscribe button, like this video, and share this video with friends. See you in the next one. happy coding.